The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. Charles Baudelaire, they tell you deception is about sweating palms and shifty eyes. They feed you lies about tells. The truth is far more subtle. Deception isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's woven into the fabric of human interaction, a silent language spoken fluently by some, understood dimly by most. We're here to illuminate that language, to strip away the comforting myths and expose the cold, hard reality of how people manipulate and deceive each other every single day. Forget everything you think you know about lie detection. This isn't about catching stutters. This is about understanding the architecture of control. It's about recognizing the subtle shifts in power, the calculated ambiguity, the carefully constructed narratives designed to keep you off balance and compliant. Most people are playing checkers while a select few are engaged in a high-stakes game of 3D chess, using your emotions, your assumptions, and your ingrained social programming against you. They exploit your desire to be agreeable, your fear of conflict, your trust in authority. This isn't about cynicism, it's about survival. It's about equipping yourself with the knowledge to navigate the treacherous landscape of human interaction without becoming a pawn in someone else's game. We'll show you how to see the invisible strings, how to anticipate the next move, and how to reclaim your own agency in a world where deception is the default setting. Stop focusing on the surface-level tells and start analyzing the underlying strategy. Because the real art of deception lies not in avoiding detection, but in controlling perception. It's about crafting a reality that serves their agenda and convincing you to believe in it, even when your gut tells you otherwise. They manipulate information flow, they control the narrative, they exploit your biases, and they leave you questioning your own sanity. The key is to understand that deception is a process, not an event. It's a carefully orchestrated campaign designed to erode your resistance and subtly shift your perspective. We'll teach you how to recognize the early warning signs, how to identify the patterns, and how to disrupt the process before it's too late. This isn't just about detecting lies, it's about understanding the motivations behind them. It's about recognizing the power dynamics at play and understanding how deception is used as a tool to maintain control. We're not just teaching you to spot a liar, we're teaching you to see the entire game. We're teaching you to recognize the subtle cues, the hidden agendas, and the carefully constructed narratives that are designed to manipulate your emotions and control your behavior. Prepare to see the world in a whole new light. Deception at its core is an exploitation of trust. It's a calculated risk, a gamble on the target's vulnerabilities. The deceiver preys on the inherent human tendency to believe, to accept information at face value, especially when it comes from a source we perceive as trustworthy. This trust becomes a weapon, wielded with precision and often with devastating consequences. Understanding this inherent vulnerability is the first step in building a defense against manipulation. The deceiver understands that controlling your emotional state is paramount to controlling your perception of reality. Fear, anger, desire, these are the levers they pull to cloud your judgment and make you more susceptible to their narrative. By triggering specific emotional responses, they can bypass your rational defenses and implant suggestions directly into your subconscious. They know that an emotional reaction is often faster and more powerful than a reasoned response, and they exploit this to their advantage. This manipulation is not always overt. It can be subtle and insidious, a slow drip of carefully crafted narratives designed to subtly shift your perspective over time. This is why it's crucial to develop emotional awareness, to recognize when your emotions are being manipulated, and to consciously detach from the emotional response in order to analyze the situation objectively. Consider the framework of cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts our brains use to process information quickly. These biases, while generally helpful, can be easily exploited by a skilled deceiver. Confirmation bias, for example, leads us to favor information that confirms our existing beliefs, making us less likely to question information that aligns with our worldview, even if it's false. Anchoring bias causes us to rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, even if it's irrelevant or misleading. The deceiver understands these biases and uses them to their advantage, crafting narratives that cater to our pre-existing beliefs and subtly influencing our perceptions. They understand that a small nudge in the right direction can be enough to derail our critical thinking and lead us down a path of deception. Moreover, the power of suggestion plays a critical role in the deception process. By carefully phrasing their words and subtly influencing the context, deceivers can implant ideas and beliefs into our minds without us even realizing it. This is often done through the use of vague language, suggestive questioning, and carefully crafted analogies. The goal is to create a sense of certainty, even when the evidence is weak or non-existent. The deceiver understands that human beings are highly suggestible, especially when they are in a state of emotional vulnerability or cognitive overload. This suggestibility makes us susceptible to manipulation, even when we are consciously trying to resist it. The manipulation is amplified by understanding the target's desires and fears. Someone driven by a desire for wealth is more vulnerable to promises of quick riches, while someone plagued by fear of failure is more susceptible to threats and intimidation. The deceiver tailors their approach to exploit these specific vulnerabilities, crafting narratives that resonate with the target's deepest desires and fears. They create a sense of urgency, a feeling that immediate action is required to achieve their goals or avoid their worst nightmares. This sense of urgency bypasses rational thought and pushes the target to make impulsive decisions without fully considering the consequences. The deceiver understands that a desperate person is a pliable person, and they exploit this vulnerability with ruthless efficiency. Social pressure is another powerful tool in the deceiver's arsenal. The desire to fit in, to be accepted by our peers, can override our better judgment and lead us to accept false information or engage in unethical behavior. The deceiver uses social proof, highlighting the fact that others have already accepted their narrative, to create a sense of conformity and reduce our resistance. They may also use techniques like gaslighting, subtly manipulating our perceptions of reality until we begin to doubt our own sanity. This is a particularly insidious form of deception, designed to undermine our confidence and make us more dependent on the deceiver for validation. The deceiver understands that a person who doubts their own sanity is easily controlled, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. Consider, too, the deceiver's ability to adapt their strategy based on the target's reactions. This requires a high degree of emotional intelligence, an ability to read body language, interpret subtle cues, and adjust their approach accordingly. They are constantly monitoring the target's responses, looking for signs of doubt, resistance, or vulnerability. They use this information to fine-tune their narrative and maintain control of the conversation. They are masters of improvisation, able to think on their feet and adapt to unexpected circumstances. This adaptability is what makes them so dangerous, as they are always one step ahead of their target. The deceiver's skill lies not just in lying, but in creating a believable reality. They understand that the most effective lies are those that are interwoven with elements of truth, making them difficult to detect. They may also use techniques like paltering, telling the truth in a way that creates a false impression. The key is to control the flow of information, to present a carefully curated narrative that supports their agenda while omitting or distorting any information that contradicts it. They understand that perception is reality, and they are masters of shaping perception to their own advantage. It is this understanding of human psychology that makes the deceiver such a formidable opponent. To defend against deception, we must understand their tactics, recognize our own vulnerabilities, and cultivate a healthy skepticism towards information that seems too good to be true. We must learn to think critically, to question assumptions, and to trust our own instincts, even when they conflict with the prevailing narrative. Only then can we hope to protect ourselves from the insidious power of deception. The scenario unfolds in a seemingly innocuous setting, a bustling coffee shop. Two individuals, let's call them Alex and Blake, are engaged in what appears to be a friendly conversation. However, beneath the surface of casual banter, a subtle power play is unfolding. Alex, the deceiver, is attempting to manipulate Blake into investing in a questionable business venture. Alex begins by establishing common ground, reminiscing about shared experiences and mutual acquaintances. This is a calculated move, designed to build rapport and create a sense of trust. They subtly introduce the topic of their business venture, painting a picture of immense profitability and minimal risk. They carefully select their words, using phrases like guaranteed returns and limited time opportunity to create a sense of urgency and scarcity. Blake, initially skeptical, finds himself gradually being drawn in by Alex's persuasive rhetoric. Alex anticipates Blake's reservations and proactively addresses them, offering plausible explanations and citing fabricated testimonials. They use jargon and industry-specific terms to create an impression of expertise, further reinforcing Blake's confidence. As the conversation progresses, Alex subtly shifts the frame, positioning themselves as an authority figure and Blake as someone who needs their guidance. They use subtle forms of social pressure, implying that others have already invested and are reaping the rewards. Blake, wanting to avoid appearing foolish or out of touch, becomes increasingly susceptible to Alex's influence. Throughout the interaction, Alex constantly monitors Blake's body language and verbal cues, looking for signs of hesitation or resistance. They adjust their approach accordingly, employing different tactics to overcome Blake's objections. They might use humor to diffuse tension, offer personal anecdotes to build empathy, or appeal to Blake's desire for financial success. The key is to maintain control of the narrative and keep Blake engaged and receptive. As the conversation nears its conclusion, Alex presents Blake with a seemingly irresistible offer, a special deal that is only available for a limited time. They emphasize the potential for massive profits and downplay the risks involved. Blake, feeling pressured and overwhelmed, finds himself on the verge of making a hasty decision. The deceiver excels at creating a sense of urgency, knowing that people are more likely to make impulsive choices when they feel like they are missing out on an opportunity. The entire interaction is a carefully orchestrated performance, designed to manipulate Blake's emotions and exploit their vulnerabilities. Alex understands that people are often driven by their desires and fears, and they use this knowledge to their advantage. They prey on Blake's greed, their ambition, and their fear of missing out. The coffee shop scenario is a microcosm of the deceptive practices that occur in countless social and professional settings. It highlights the importance of being aware of these tactics and developing the skills to resist them. To avoid falling prey to deception, it is crucial to maintain a healthy skepticism, to question assumptions, and to trust your own intuition. You must be able to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation, such as excessive flattery, pressure tactics, and inconsistencies in the deceiver's story. It is also important to research and verify any claims that seem too good to be true. Do not be afraid to ask questions and challenge the deceiver's narrative. Remember, the burden of proof lies with them, not with you. In this scenario, Blake could have avoided being manipulated by taking a step back and critically evaluating Alex's proposal. They could have sought advice from trusted friends or financial advisors, or they could have simply taken more time to make a decision. By slowing down the process and gathering more information, Blake could have avoided making a costly mistake. The ability to detect deception is not just about recognizing lies. It is about understanding human psychology and the dynamics of social interaction. It is about being aware of your own biases and vulnerabilities and developing the skills to protect yourself from manipulation. The coffee shop scenario is a reminder that deception can occur anywhere, at any time, and that it is essential to be vigilant and discerning in all of your interactions. The coffee shop is just one arena. The trap lies in believing it's always obvious, always a grand scheme. More often, deception is subtle, incremental, a slow erosion of your judgment. Think of it as the boiling frog. You don't jump out because the temperature rises gradually. You acclimate, unaware of the danger until it's too late. This is how manipulators operate. They don't come at you with a full-blown lie right away. They start with small, seemingly innocuous statements, testing your boundaries, gauging your willingness to accept their narrative. Once they find a crack in your defenses, they exploit it, widening the gap until they can control the flow of information and shape your perception of reality. The weak fail because they prioritize politeness over prudence. They fear confrontation. They want to be liked. They accept the initial premise without questioning it, afraid of appearing rude or skeptical. This desire for social acceptance becomes their downfall, blinding them to the red flags that would otherwise be obvious. They are so focused on maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict that they fail to recognize the predator lurking beneath the surface. Consider the power of manufactured urgency. This is a limited-time offer. You have to act now or you'll miss out. These phrases are designed to bypass your rational thinking and trigger an emotional response. Fear of missing out, or FOMO, is a powerful motivator, and manipulators know how to exploit it. They create a sense of scarcity, making you believe that the opportunity is fleeting and that you must make a decision immediately. This pressure prevents you from thinking clearly and critically, making you more likely to make a mistake. The weak succumb to this pressure because they are driven by greed or fear. They lack the self-control to resist the temptation, or they simply haven't developed the mental fortitude to stand their ground. They allow themselves to be rushed and manipulated, sacrificing their long-term interests for short-term gains. They prioritize immediate gratification over long-term security, a fatal flaw in the game of social chess. Another common tactic is the use of flattery and charm. Manipulators often shower their targets with compliments, making them feel special and important. This creates a sense of obligation and makes it more difficult to say no to their requests. The weak are particularly susceptible to this tactic because they have fragile egos or a deep-seated need for validation. They crave attention and approval, and they are willing to overlook red flags in order to receive it. They mistake flattery for genuine affection, failing to recognize that it is merely a tool used to manipulate them. They fall prey to their own vanity, blinded by the illusion of importance. They fail to see that the manipulator is not genuinely interested in them as individuals, but rather as instruments to achieve their own goals. Furthermore, manipulators often use guilt to control their targets. They might subtly remind you of past favors or sacrifices, creating a sense of indebtedness. This makes it difficult to refuse their requests, even if they are unreasonable or harmful. The weak are easily manipulated by guilt because they have a strong sense of responsibility or a fear of disappointing others. They are constantly trying to please everyone, often at their own expense. They allow themselves to be burdened by the manipulator's expectations, sacrificing their own needs and desires in the process. They fail to set boundaries and assert their own autonomy, making themselves vulnerable to exploitation. They become trapped in a cycle of obligation, constantly striving to repay a debt that can never be fully satisfied. One of the most dangerous forms of deception is gaslighting, a tactic used to distort your perception of reality and make you question your own sanity. Gaslighters might deny things that you know to be true, twist your words, or accuse you of being irrational or emotional. Over time, this can erode your self-confidence and make you dependent on the gaslighter for validation. The weak are vulnerable to gaslighting because they lack self-assurance or they have a history of being manipulated or abused. They internalize the gaslighter's narrative, believing that they are indeed flawed or incompetent. They lose trust in their own judgment and become increasingly reliant on the gaslighter's approval. This creates a power imbalance that allows the gaslighter to exert complete control over their thoughts and actions. The victim becomes trapped in a web of lies and distortions, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. They are slowly stripped of their identity and autonomy, becoming mere puppets in the gaslighter's game. The Machiavellian approach to detecting and neutralizing deception requires a cold, calculated understanding of human nature. It demands that you discard any naive notions of inherent goodness and instead recognize the potential for manipulation in every interaction. You must become a student of human behavior, observing patterns, inconsistencies, and subtle cues that betray a person's true intentions. Think of it as learning to read the language of the subconscious, deciphering the hidden messages conveyed through body language, tone of voice, and choice of words. This isn't about being cynical or paranoid. It's about developing a realistic awareness of the world and protecting yourself from those who seek to exploit your vulnerabilities. The key is to approach every interaction with a healthy dose of skepticism, never taking anything at face value, and always seeking to verify information independently. Question assumptions, challenge narratives, and be wary of appeals to emotion. Manipulators often rely on your empathy and compassion to cloud your judgment, so it's crucial to maintain a detached perspective and analyze the situation objectively. One of the most effective strategies for countering deception is to gather information. The more you know about a person's background, motivations, and relationships, the better equipped you are to detect inconsistencies and identify potential red flags. Do your research, ask probing questions, and pay attention to the details. Look for discrepancies between what someone says and what they do, between their words and their body language. Trust your instincts, but always seek to validate your suspicions with evidence. Remember, deception is often a carefully constructed facade, and the more you probe, the more likely you are to expose the cracks in the surface. Another crucial element of the Machiavellian approach is to control the narrative. Don't allow yourself to be passively swept along by the manipulator's agenda. Instead, take charge of the conversation, ask leading questions, and frame the discussion in a way that favors your interests. Be assertive, confident, and unwavering in your convictions. Don't be afraid to challenge the manipulator's assertions or to point out inconsistencies in their logic. The goal is to disrupt their carefully crafted narrative and force them to reveal their true intentions. This requires a strategic mindset, a willingness to engage in intellectual combat, and a relentless pursuit of the truth. Moreover, you must understand and exploit the manipulator's weaknesses. Every individual, no matter how skilled in deception, has vulnerabilities that can be exploited. These might be based on ego, insecurities, or hidden desires. By identifying these weaknesses, you can gain leverage and control over the situation. For example, if you know that someone is driven by a need for validation, you can use carefully crafted compliments or criticisms to influence their behavior. If they are insecure about their intelligence, you can challenge their assumptions and force them to defend their positions. The key is to observe carefully, identify patterns, and then use this information to your advantage. This isn't about being malicious or cruel. It's about leveling the playing field and protecting yourself from manipulation. It's about recognizing that in the game of social dynamics, information is power, and the person who understands the other's weaknesses has a significant advantage. Similarly, never reveal your own weaknesses. Manipulators are always looking for ways to exploit your vulnerabilities, so it's crucial to maintain a sense of detachment and control. Be guarded about your personal life, your fears, and your aspirations. Don't give them any ammunition that they can use against you. This requires a high degree of self-awareness and emotional intelligence. You must be able to recognize your own weaknesses and take steps to protect yourself from exploitation. Another powerful tool in the Machiavellian arsenal is the art of feigning agreement. This involves subtly agreeing with the manipulator's assertions while simultaneously undermining their agenda. For example, you might say something like, "I understand your point of view, but have you considered the alternative perspective?" This allows you to maintain a cordial relationship while still challenging their ideas. It's a way of disarming the manipulator and making them feel as though they are in control, when in reality, you are subtly guiding them towards your desired outcome. This requires a delicate balance of assertiveness and diplomacy, but it can be incredibly effective in neutralizing deception. Furthermore, always be prepared to walk away. One of the most powerful signals you can send to a manipulator is that you are not afraid to end the interaction. This demonstrates that you value your time and energy, and that you are not willing to be taken advantage of. It also deprives the manipulator of their desired outcome, which can be a significant blow to their ego. This requires a strong sense of self-worth and a willingness to prioritize your own needs and desires. It's about recognizing that you are not obligated to engage with anyone who is attempting to manipulate or deceive you. By setting clear boundaries and enforcing them consistently, you can create a protective shield that deflects attempts at exploitation. Ultimately, the Machiavellian approach to decoding deception is about empowering yourself with knowledge and control. It's about recognizing the potential for manipulation in every interaction and taking proactive steps to protect yourself from harm. It's about becoming a master of social dynamics, capable of navigating the complex world of human relationships with confidence and skill. It requires a commitment to self-improvement, a relentless pursuit of truth, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It's not about being ruthless or unethical. It's about being strategic and self-reliant. It's about understanding that in the game of life, the best defense is a good offense, and that the only way to truly protect yourself from deception is to become a master of detection. The goal is to become an astute observer of human behavior, capable of discerning truth from falsehood, and to use this knowledge to navigate the world with clarity and purpose. This approach demands a continuous process of learning, adaptation, and refinement. You must constantly be honing your skills, expanding your knowledge, and refining your strategies. The world of social dynamics is ever-changing, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. The Machiavellian approach is not a static set of rules, but rather a dynamic framework for understanding and navigating the complexities of human interaction. Think of empires, built not of stone but of carefully constructed narratives, and the wars fought not with swords but with subtle shifts in perception. History provides countless examples of how deception has been weaponized to conquer minds and territories alike. Consider the Roman Empire, masters of not only military might but also of propaganda, carefully crafting the image of benevolent rulers bringing civilization to the barbarians. This narrative, though often masking brutal realities, served to pacify conquered populations and legitimize their rule. The empire's success rested not just on the strength of its legions, but on its ability to control the narrative, to deceive its subjects into believing in the righteousness of its cause. This control extended to manipulating information, spreading rumors, and silencing dissenting voices, all tactics aimed at maintaining its grip on power. The same principles apply in interpersonal dynamics. Those who control the narrative in a relationship, a negotiation, or even a casual conversation wield a significant advantage. They can shape perceptions, influence decisions, and ultimately achieve their desired outcome. Failing to recognize this is akin to ignoring the strategic importance of logistics in warfare. It's a fundamental oversight that can lead to defeat. The art of deception, therefore, is not merely about lying, but about crafting a reality that suits one's purposes. It involves understanding the psychological vulnerabilities of others, exploiting their biases, and skillfully manipulating their emotions. This is not to advocate for unethical behavior, but rather to illuminate the mechanisms by which deception operates, so that you can better defend yourself against it. Just as a general studies the terrain to anticipate the enemy's movements, you must study the social landscape to anticipate attempts at manipulation. The Trojan horse, a classic example of deception, highlights the importance of critical thinking and skepticism. The Trojans, blinded by their desire for victory and lulled into a false sense of security, failed to question the seemingly generous gift of the Greeks. This failure cost them their city and their freedom. In a similar vein, individuals often fall prey to deception because they are unwilling to challenge their own beliefs or question the motives of others. They may be too trusting, too eager to believe what they want to hear, or too afraid to confront uncomfortable truths. This vulnerability can be exploited by those who seek to manipulate them for their own gain. Developing a healthy dose of skepticism is crucial for protecting yourself from deception. This doesn't mean becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone, but rather approaching every interaction with a critical eye, questioning assumptions, and seeking evidence to support claims. It means being willing to challenge your own biases and considering alternative perspectives. Just as a military strategist analyzes intelligence reports to identify potential threats, you must analyze the information you receive from others to detect signs of deception. This includes paying attention to verbal and nonverbal cues, inconsistencies in their story, and any attempts to pressure or manipulate you. Remember, those who seek to deceive you will often try to exploit your weaknesses, whether it's your desire to be liked, your fear of conflict, or your need for validation. By understanding your own vulnerabilities, you can better protect yourself from being taken advantage of. Consider the Cold War, a decades-long conflict fought not with direct military confrontation, but with espionage, propaganda, and proxy wars. Both sides engaged in elaborate campaigns of deception, attempting to undermine each other's governments, influence public opinion, and gain strategic advantages. The KGB and the CIA, for example, were masters of disinformation, spreading false information to sow discord and confusion within enemy ranks. They used psychological warfare tactics to demoralize the enemy population and undermine their faith in their leaders. This constant struggle for dominance in the realm of information highlights the crucial role that deception plays in geopolitical conflicts. The ability to control the narrative, to shape perceptions, and to manipulate public opinion can be as decisive as military might. In the realm of interpersonal relationships, the stakes may be lower, but the principles remain the same. Those who are skilled at deception can gain a significant advantage, manipulating others to achieve their desired outcomes. They may use flattery to win your trust, guilt to manipulate your actions, or fear to control your behavior. By understanding these tactics, you can become more resistant to their influence. It's important to recognize that deception is not always malicious. Sometimes, people lie to protect themselves, to avoid hurting others, or to maintain social harmony. However, even in these cases, it's crucial to be aware of the underlying dynamics at play. By understanding the motivations behind deception, you can make more informed decisions about how to respond. Ultimately, the goal is not to become a master manipulator yourself, but rather to become a more astute observer of human behavior, capable of discerning truth from falsehood, and to use this knowledge to protect yourself from harm. The concept of plausible deniability, often employed in espionage and covert operations, illustrates the importance of strategic ambiguity in deception. It allows individuals to engage in questionable activities while maintaining a degree of separation from the consequences. By carefully crafting their words and actions, they can create a narrative that allows them to deny involvement if their actions are exposed. This same principle applies in everyday interactions. People often use vague language, indirect statements, and subtle manipulations to achieve their goals without taking direct responsibility. For example, someone might say, "I was just kidding," after making a hurtful remark, or "I didn't mean it that way," after making a suggestive comment. These tactics allow them to test the waters, gauge your reaction, and backpedal if necessary. Recognizing these subtle forms of deception is crucial for protecting yourself from being manipulated. Pay attention to the underlying message behind the words, and don't be afraid to call people out on their inconsistencies. If someone is being evasive or unclear, press them for more details. The more information you have, the better equipped you will be to assess the situation and make informed decisions. Remember, those who seek to deceive you will often try to create confusion and ambiguity, making it difficult for you to discern the truth. By demanding clarity and challenging their evasiveness, you can disrupt their strategy and force them to reveal their true intentions. Just as military strategists study the art of war to understand the tactics and strategies of their adversaries, you must study the art of deception to understand how people manipulate and deceive each other. This requires a deep understanding of psychology, sociology, and communication. You must learn to recognize the common patterns of deceptive behavior, understand the motivations behind deception, and develop strategies for detecting and deflecting attempts at manipulation. This is not a passive process. It requires active engagement, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge your own assumptions. You must constantly be honing your skills, expanding your knowledge, and refining your strategies. The world of social dynamics is ever-changing, and those who fail to adapt will be left behind. The Machiavellian approach is not a static set of rules, but rather a dynamic framework for understanding and navigating the complexities of human interaction. It's a continuous process of learning, adaptation, and refinement that requires a commitment to self-improvement and a relentless pursuit of truth. The goal is not to become a master manipulator, but rather to become a more astute observer of human behavior, capable of discerning truth from falsehood, and to use this knowledge to navigate the world with clarity and purpose. The psychology of deception is a multifaceted landscape, a tangled web of cognitive biases, emotional vulnerabilities, and strategic calculations. To effectively decode deception, you must delve into the inner workings of the human mind, understanding the motivations, fears, and insecurities that drive people to conceal the truth. Consider the concept of cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when individuals hold conflicting beliefs or values. Deception can be a way to reduce this dissonance, to reconcile actions with desired self-perceptions. A person might lie to protect their image, to avoid facing the consequences of their actions, or to maintain a sense of control over their environment. Furthermore, understand the power of framing. How a situation is presented or interpreted can significantly impact how individuals perceive the truth. A skilled deceiver can manipulate the frame, selectively highlighting certain aspects of a situation while downplaying others, thereby shaping the narrative to their advantage. This manipulation of framing is a powerful tool in the deceiver's arsenal. Look at the underlying emotional currents that influence behavior. Fear, guilt, shame, and anger can all drive individuals to deceive. Someone who is afraid of losing their job might lie to cover up a mistake. Someone who feels guilty about their actions might lie to avoid confrontation. Recognizing these emotional triggers can provide valuable clues about the potential for deception. A crucial aspect of understanding the psychology of deception lies in recognizing the role of self-deception. Often, people lie to themselves before they lie to others. They rationalize their behavior, minimize their transgressions, and construct narratives that support their desired self-image. This self-deception can make it difficult to detect deception in others, as their lies may be rooted in genuine belief. Examine the motivations behind deception. What does the deceiver hope to gain? Are they seeking power, control, validation, or simply avoiding punishment? Understanding the underlying motivations can provide insights into the type of deception they are likely to employ and the vulnerabilities they are likely to exploit. The more you know about a person's desires and fears, the better equipped you are to anticipate their deceptive strategies. Consider the concept of theory of mind, the ability to understand that other people have thoughts, beliefs, and desires that may differ from our own. Deception relies on the ability to manipulate another person's theory of mind, to create a false belief or perception that serves the deceiver's purpose. A skilled deceiver will anticipate how their target will react to their deception and adjust their strategy accordingly. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology and the ability to empathize, albeit in a manipulative way. The human capacity for rationalization is another key component. People are incredibly adept at justifying their actions, even when those actions are morally questionable. They might downplay the severity of their lies, shift the blame to others, or convince themselves that their deception is justified by the circumstances. Recognizing these rationalizations can help you see through the deceiver's justifications and uncover their true intentions. Understanding cognitive biases is also crucial. Confirmation bias, for example, leads people to seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs while ignoring information that contradicts them. A skilled deceiver can exploit this bias by providing information that reinforces their target's preconceived notions, making it more likely that their deception will be accepted. The halo effect, where a positive impression in one area influences overall perception, can also be manipulated. Someone perceived as trustworthy in one context may be given the benefit of the doubt in another, even if there are reasons to suspect deception. Examine the dynamics of power within a social interaction. Power imbalances can create opportunities for deception, as those in positions of authority may be more likely to lie or manipulate those who are less powerful. Conversely, those who are less powerful may lie to protect themselves from those who are more powerful. Understanding these power dynamics can help you identify potential areas of vulnerability and detect deceptive behavior. The psychology of deception is not a fixed science, but rather a fluid and evolving field. As our understanding of the human mind deepens, so too does our ability to detect and defend against deception. The key is to remain curious, to continually challenge your assumptions, and to never stop learning about the complexities of human behavior. The final layer of defense against deception lies not just in recognizing the tactics, but in understanding the motivations that drive them. Deception is rarely arbitrary. It's a tool used to achieve a specific goal, whether it's personal gain, social dominance, or the avoidance of consequences. To truly decode deception, you must become adept at identifying these underlying motivations and understanding how they shape the deceptive behavior. This requires a deep understanding of human psychology and the ability to empathize, not to condone, but to comprehend the deceiver's perspective. Consider the social context in which the deception occurs. Social norms and expectations play a significant role in shaping deceptive behavior. In some situations, deception may be considered more acceptable or even necessary, while in others it may be viewed as a grave transgression. Understanding these social norms can help you to evaluate the appropriateness of a person's behavior and to determine whether it is consistent with the expectations of the situation. Pay attention to inconsistencies between a person's words and their actions. Deception often manifests as a disconnect between what someone says and what they do. For example, someone who claims to be trustworthy may engage in behaviors that undermine their credibility. These inconsistencies can be subtle, but they can be powerful indicators of deception. Trust your intuition, but don't rely on it exclusively. Intuition can be a valuable tool for detecting deception, but it should not be the sole basis for your judgment. Intuition is often based on subconscious cues and patterns that may not be readily apparent, but it can also be influenced by biases and prejudices. Therefore, it's important to combine intuition with careful observation and critical thinking. Remember that everyone is capable of deception. It's a fundamental part of human nature, and no one is immune to its allure. Accepting this reality can help you to approach social interactions with a healthy dose of skepticism and to avoid being caught off guard by deceptive behavior. The ability to detect deception is a skill that can be developed and honed over time with practice and experience. The more you observe human behavior, the more attuned you will become to the subtle cues and patterns that indicate deception. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They are an essential part of the learning process. The ultimate goal is not to become a perfect lie detector, but to develop a more nuanced and sophisticated understanding of human nature. To become a master of decoding deception, you must cultivate a mindset of constant learning and self-improvement. Stay up to date on the latest research in psychology, communication, and social behavior. Read books, attend workshops, and seek out mentors who can help you to expand your knowledge and refine your skills. And above all, never stop questioning your own assumptions and biases. The world is a stage and everyone plays a role. Learn to see through the masks, the carefully constructed facades, the calculated performances. Observe